Welcome to the 24th episode of the second season of The Pulpiteer. I'm your host, Eric Hepburn, and I'm glad to have you join us for today's episode. Today's episode is called Greensleeves, named after the traditional English folk song. We'll be using it as an entree into longing, around the corner from laughter, and deep into our own agency. Okay, this week we'll begin with our Great World House segment honoring the life of Jesse Jackson, then move on to our word of wisdom delivered by Joel Cruz. Now we pause to honor the Great World House of which we are a part, lifting up the needs, the hopes, and the voices beyond these walls. And today, that Great World House is to honor the Reverend Jesse Jackson. He was a civil rights leader, a Baptist minister, and a tireless advocate for justice who walked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He died on February 17th this week at the age of 84. Following in the footsteps of Shirley Chisholm, Jesse Jackson ran twice for the Democratic presidential nomination. He became the first black candidate to win state primaries, and in doing so, he helped reshape the party's priorities and expand the moral imagination of American politics. And that is no small feat. He expanded the map of American political possibility through what he called the Rainbow Coalition. The Rainbow Coalition. It's a lot like what UUs do. We don't have to think alike to love alike. We come from different nationalities, different races, different creeds. We come from all over, but together we recognize that our shared humanity stands stronger and above those differences. The Rainbow Coalition was a reminder that resilience does not grow in isolation. It grows when people who have been divided discover that their struggles are intertwined. And in this Great World House, we do not endure alone. We endure together. Amen.
Let us enter a still place within, opening our hearts and minds to receive this voice of wisdom. After the words are spoken, we will breathe together in silence, preparing ourselves for the word unfolding among us. We welcome a voice of wisdom carried through Wendell Berry with this excerpt from his poem, Manifesto, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front. So, friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who doesn't deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that prophet. prophecy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to the carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts.
From breath to word, from silence to speech, we enter the unfolding inward. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. That's what the kids are working on out there today. That's our healing laughter focus. That's one polarity that I'm going to ask you to hold in your heart while we're together this morning. And the second polarity is longing, because that's what Greensleeves is about. When we love another, we open our heart to them in a way that makes us supremely woundable. Now that's true on an interpersonal level, as they say in Greensleeves, but it's true at every level, isn't it, friends? We open our heart to this community, and it means that tragedy in this community can wound us. We open our hearts to being Texans. And when Texas does things that hurts people, we bear that wound. We're Americans. And when we round people up and put them in cages, it hurts our heart. Whether we want to admit it or not, whether we want to accept our own complicity in it, despite our attempts to act against it. I've been asked this question a lot since I got here, because I preach a lot about the necessity of becoming grief literate. How we have to learn to hold this longing in this sadness, the vulnerability that leads to woundedness, how we have to learn some skill in this area. And I've had people say, that's lovely. How? How do I do that? How do I do that? And I've spent some time talking about the negative unintended consequence of failing to do so. That unmetabolized sadness in our soul that comes from unfulfilled longing, that comes from vulnerability, that comes from our complicity in the harms of the places we love and the people with whom we share those places. When we shove them and don't metabolize them, they metastasize into the kinds of fear and anger and resentment that we see ripping at the very fabric of our culture. That's the negative unintended consequence of our failure to grieve, of our failure to be sad in a time of sadness. We know what pressure feels like. You don't need a headline to know something is tight. You feel it in your shoulders. You feel it in your jaw, in the way your breath shortens when the news alert goes off. We don't just laugh because we enjoy silliness. We laugh because sometimes we're either going to laugh or cry. And we make a strategic choice in that moment. But sometimes we pick laughter just so we won't cry. And that could be a mistake. One of the ways that we might metabolize some of this sadness is to choose crying a little more often. When you could release the pressure by making a joke, but you're in the safety of beloved folks who are willing and capable to hold some sadness with you. Just try once in a while to pick tears instead. It won't kill you, despite what your parents said. It sounds too simple, does it, to say that permission to just feel sad and be sad and feel overwhelmed is some kind of magic key. But all keys are like magic, aren't they? All keys are like magic. Any technology complex enough that I don't understand it appears like magic to me, and I do not understand locks. Some people do, sure. Some people understand them quite well. They could use a little set of sticks and make them do what they want. Awesome. I don't. A key is just like magic to me. And I have an engineering degree. The keys are like magic. And the reason that the first time in your life you saw that little poster that says, everything important I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten, the reason it hit you like an arrow to your heart is because you saw something in it that was deeply true. That before the world got complicated with strategy and complexity, the lessons of simple kindness, of finding joy, of caring for one another, those lessons ought not be obscured by that complexity. They're still the foundation for the world we want to build with one another. Greensleeves carries ache. It doesn't rush it away. It doesn't fix it. It lets longing be beautiful instead of brittle. It lets longing be something you could sit with for a while instead of trying to grab your broom and chase it out the front door. We don't need to eliminate longing. We need to let longing stay connected to our love, the love that birthed it, long enough that it doesn't curdle into resentment. Because your ego, your brain's going to jump in there and be like, surely this is somebody's fault. This way I'm feeling is unfair. The universe has unfolded in a way of which I do not approve. Oh, Heavenly Father, would thou please grant me a scapegoat? Someone to blame for this deep misfortune, so that instead of feeling the sadness and brokenheartedness of my longing, I can blame someone for it instead. Luckily, God doesn't answer those kind of prayers, but your ego will gladly step in and provide you with a ready list of names of the most blameworthy people whom you could learn to live without, and you can just frame this on them. I think I quoted this the last time I was in the pulpit. Marshall Rosenberg said, "In the moment, you are allowed to feel." I don't just mean allowed, I mean like encouraged. If you're here today, you're not just allowed to feel your feelings. I am encouraging you to feel your feelings, all of them. He says, you are allowed to feel whatever feelings you're feeling. But the moment that what you're feeling becomes somebody else's fault, the violence has already begun. Marshall Rosenberg was a master of nonviolence. He developed the whole nonviolent communication strategy. He talks about how to listen with your giraffe heart and hear the human longing, the human need underneath it, even when people are using unkind words with you. Eric, that was the worst sermon I ever heard today. Giraffe ears. Now, so here's what Marshall did. He said, okay, jackal ears say, well, that's just because you weren't ready to hear my awesome sermon. Right? That's the jackal. Defensiveness. I'm still right. I think that means you must be wrong. Giraffe ears. Eric, I can't tell you why. But I'm sad because I came and I needed you to speak to my heart this morning. And for whatever reason, it missed. For whatever reason. Now, I can't sit with my sadness about it. So it came out as anger directed at you. But giraffe ears don't hear that. Giraffe ears hear, I had a longing in my heart this morning, and I came and I sat in that chair right there, and I needed something, and I didn't get it from you. That's how I would be sad about that comment. I don't know how else to teach you how to mourn, but to model it for you. Because cognitive behavioral therapy is right. The story you tell yourself creates the emotional landscape that then you have to navigate. The external thing that comes in from the world is just one little part of it. How you turn it into a series of thoughts and stories in your own head matters deeply and greatly. It changes the whole inflection of the thing. You have to own your stories, folks, whatever they are. Whatever they are, own them. And here's the beautiful part. The world is full of Marshall Rosenbergs. If you want to find a new way to tell yourself a story, you have but look. You have but to look. And you will find guides and wisdom that will help you rewrite the story of how you show up every day. If you want book recommendations, you know how to get a hold of me. I have more than I can do anything with. The Great World House is not an idea. It is also an idea. But it is not only an idea. It is a practice. It is a practice because when one nervous system steadies, it's contagious. Sometimes that's me in a room, and sometimes, thank all that is, it's somebody else when I need it. When we sing together, breathe together, show up together, we co-regulate. We co-regulate and we collaborate. And all the best things are born that way. It's one of the biggest lies I had to unlearn. I was told when I was growing up that only competition can create greatness. If you'd like, you can go home this afternoon and turn on the internet or the television and hear that message repeated back to you ad nauseum as part of the Olympics. Only competition and the striving for national greatness will produce amazing human accomplishment. Right? I'm not lying, am I? That's what they're going to tell you. I've been hearing it for days. Sick of it. Sick of it. It's not, I want people to get to show up and do their best. I want that for them. Maybe the competition is why we have drugging scandals. Maybe the competition is why these identities that we cling to get in our way more than they help us. I don't know. Coalition. So we've got co-regulation and collaboration. When we do those things together, we are in a coalition. And a coalition is not political first. It is physiological and relational first. It's the same root word as community, communitas. We are in community together. It means we agree to show up and collaborate. We agree to show up and co-regulate with one another. We agree to be an anchor in the sea, a safe harbor in the storm for one another. That's what it means to be relationship first. It's not my first time talking about this. It sure as heck won't be my last. We do joys and sorrows every week. We use it as an entree to try to practice praise and grief every week. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. A little bit of honesty. A little bit of, this is what's making me sad this week. A little bit of, here's where I saw the light of joy this week. Coming up, I believe we're going to do it in the third Wednesday in March. I'll talk about it next week. I forgot to put it in the announcements today, so I'm saying it now during the sermon. I collaborated with a few folks right after the election, and we did a couple grief events in the evening. And we talked about having a big grief ritual that we were going to do in the church and invite a bunch of people, and it was going to be a pretty intense kind of 3-day thing. And most people in the community said, yeah, no. So we didn't get enough people sign up for that. And it said, oh, okay, so we weren't ready for 3 days of solid grief. So we're starting off a little smaller. Myself and 2 therapists who help put on those other grief events, we're going to try, probably on the third Wednesday of each month, we're just going to have a little grief circle gathering here on Wednesday evenings, and we're going to put our toe in the grief work water and hopefully give a little bit better answer to this question of, okay, you've convinced me. I want to metabolize my sadness so that it doesn't metastasize into anger, fear, hatred, and all that stuff, but I don't know how. This is going to be one way to start doing some skill building in that area. So the chalice words aren't aspirational fluff. They're instructions. When the light of truth burns all else away, what's left is the truth of our relationship with one another. And somehow, mystically, magically, like a key, when we slow down and get quiet enough to feel that connection with one another, we sense that in ways we might not understand and don't have to put labels on, that there's other things in that network connected into it. Whether we call it love, whether we call it life, whether we call it Gaia or God or the ground of all being, there's something that holds our web in a larger web. And that is a beautiful thing to touch. When the light of truth burns all else away, if we can stay aligned with love in that moment, then resilience becomes more than survival. Resilience becomes more than survival, more than just, I woke up another day. Stephen Jenkinson says it like this. He says, life is a gift. It's not an entitlement. But we're living in a world and a culture where entitlement is so normalized, it's hard not to take the next day for granted. Because the message that we're hearing, along with these messages about competition, are filled with entitlement. Oh, that next day, that's not a gift, friends. That's your birthright. You better stand up and claim that birthright. So my family hates when I do this. Like, they find it terribly disturbing. I admit it's pretty bad. I don't even know. I don't even know who I'm making fun of. I'm making fun of like my own alter ego. Now, damn it, boy! I'm telling you, that is your birthright. You go claim it. What an opposite, though, right? No, I just want you to pause. So the laughter releases, right? Now, into the space created by that release of tension, I want you to seriously pour and focus your discernment, your spiritual discernment on that empty space created for a minute, and ask how fundamental the difference between the next day is my birthright and the next day is a gift of powers I don't understand and don't control. How different do you show up to waking up in the morning, whether choosing which of those two stories you want to start your day with? When you watch the news tonight, they're going to convince you that you are powerless in the face of what's going on right now. My friends, the power to choose how to start your own day, they cannot take that from you. And everything they threaten is founded on the foundation that you will show up like you're entitled. Because every day that you show up entitled, you are a stimulus jerk puppet answering their call. They're like, oh, you're entitled? Perfect. I've got the perfect solution of buttons for you. Outrage, indignation. All right, now they're going to do exactly what we want them to do the whole day because they showed up entitled. They put their buttons on display, hung it on the front door. All I had to do was walk up and go, bleep, bleep, bleep. This is the program behavior I would like today from you. I thank you for your cooperation. But if every day is a gift, friend, you become unpredictable. If every day is a gift, you become unpredictable. You become full of agency and love and the power of life in ways that are not easily manipulable. They cannot take your agency from you if you do not give it to them. Amen. Until next time, thank you for joining us on The Pulpiteer. If you enjoyed the podcast, you can help others find it by liking and subscribing. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can make a donation at sangabrieluu.org/give. The Pulpiteer podcast is a production of the San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Georgetown, Texas. The podcast is hosted by Spotify, and theme music is by John Fager. Our live recording tech crew this week was Frank Sanders, Rob Berthold, Keith Hutchinson, and Andrew McDane. The podcast is produced and performed by Eric Hepburn. See you next time.